situation that has turned out to be one of the 10 greatest moments of my life.
One of the 10 greatest moments of her life. Those two women who said they were lost at sea for 5 months after their boat was badly damaged in a storm. Well, not long after that rescue and the interviews that came along with it, we were left with far more questions than answers about their story. The storm they mentioned initially wasn't actually on any radars, according to the National Weather Service. That emergency beacon we know about was working perfectly, we're told. They chose not to activate it because, quote, it would be shameful to call on the USCG, the Coast Guard resources, when not in imminent peril. Although remember, when they were rescued, Jennifer Appel, who you see here, said she believed if they hadn't been rescued, they could have died, 24 hours away from dying. Joining us now is Patti Wood. She's a body language expert and the author of Snap, Making the Most of First Impressions, Body Language, and Charisma. Patti, great to have you with us. So as we're looking at processing, I should say, everything we know, and looking at these two women, what we're learning from them, both on what they're saying and what they're not saying in terms of their language. I want to take a listen to this when they spoke with my colleague, Ivan Watson, just after describing that storm they talked about.
We got into a white squall, which is a very bad type of storm that you don't normally see coming because it's white. That pushed us into an area of 160 west that is called the Devil's Triangle. And they call it the Devil's Triangle because boats go in, but very rarely do they ever come out. And if they do, there are very few people or no one on the boats. And the reason for that is because that is a tiger shark breeding ground. And we got some amazing pictures of flat water, and every once in a while you'd see this 3-foot wave just come up. And it was the sharks pushing us into their hunting ground so that their babies could learn to hunt.
What do you make of I'll let you take it away then. I think I'm getting a sense of what you make of it.
First of all, what's fascinating is how euphoric she is. And as she talks about this story, she doesn't tell what would be normal in this situation, which is the pain and trauma story. So let's start with that. As she begins, she talks about that they were in a white squall, and then she does something called a tongue cleanse. She puts her tongue through her mouth, through the teeth, which is typical of somebody that's cleansing their mouth after telling a lie, which is rather interesting. Then she talks about the rest of the experience, distancing herself from it by saying, actually giving us lessons about what a white squall is, what the Devil's Triangle is, what the tiger sharks are like. She's teaching us about these moments, highly bizarre. Instead of talking about how horrible it was to be in the white squall or how scary it was to be surrounded by tiger sharks, it's just an unusual choice. You know, you look at the baseline of somebody that has gone through trauma. This is not standard. This is very different from what you would expect.
So to your point, one thing I will say, they were out there for 5 months. Perhaps her lips are dry, and I mean that very seriously.
Yes.
If you're out there in the ocean, so it could be possible that that's what she's trying to do.
Absolutely.
If her lips are dry. But you talk about the mindset and what people would talk about, and I even asked them specifically about that. Take a listen to this exchange.
There must have been some pretty dark times.
Absolutely.
Yeah. But there's a lot of light too, because like the ocean's beautiful. You don't see the sunsets just in open water, all the colors. You don't notice that the fish have so much beauty to them. You don't notice all the rich life because you're on land and you only have so much of a viewpoint of things.
So Tasha Fuiava talking there about the things that she did notice, focusing on the positives there, and as opposed to the terror and the trauma.
And first of all, the interesting choice, she was asked about the dark times, and most people, even if they've been in a fender bender, want to tell you all about it and go through that experience and tell you the story. So the choice to say absolutely and quickly go to the positive, it looks like they're motivational speakers, which is interesting. But here's what's also true. They did experience wonderful, beautiful things because as she's describing these sunsets, for example, the gestures actually align with what she's saying. That would be difficult to do if she hadn't truly experienced something beautiful. But again, the choice to only speak about that after they've been through that trauma is interesting. And also, we don't even see, in terms of their facial structure, typically when you've been under a stressful experience, you have a lot of cortisol going into the body, and it burns fat, and we're not seeing the body language, the facial structure that would show they've been under stress or trauma.
It's fascinating. As we point out, still a lot of questions, and I think that this story is far from over as we continue to dig a little deeper. Patti would appreciate it. Thank you.